Thank you. Thank you to the William & Mary community. Thank you, President Rowe. Thank you, Rector Poston, members of the Board of Visitors. Thank you for this tremendous honor. I am humbled to receive this honor from an institution that has shaped civic leaders since 1693. I'm also humbled to stand here with Chancellor Robert Gates. Mr. Director, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chancellor, you have shown the United States again and again your commitment to service and leadership and duty, and how to always put our country first. May we all learn this lesson anew. Your position as Chancellor stretches back to the Bishop of London and the Archbishop of Canterbury. It was held by our first president, a little bit longer than you, so we've got some time for you to meet that standard. And centuries later, your position was held by a British Prime Minister because this historic university chose to honor the special relationship between our countries. And 333 years is a long time, and it is an honor to be with all of you today, especially the students. Thank you for welcoming me into this extraordinary space. To Ken Burns, welcome back to Virginia. And to the audience, please remember that they put me after Ken Burns. Your films do something extraordinary. Their storytelling help us understand who we are by showing us where we've been and who has come before us. You have identified through lines in the stories and events that shaped who we are as Americans. By looking to history, you help us understand what's happening right now. Your films do more than simply document the past. They make us feel it and understand its lessons for today. And as we celebrate in this Charter Day, this university, and all that it represents, its history, in the years since America's 250th, it is an honor to be with you all in Williamsburg. And again, to the students, the faculty, and the alumni of William & Mary, thank you for this honor. You know, I did a lot of reading and thinking in the days and weeks leading up to the inauguration last month. And I kept asking myself questions about the governors who have come before me. What were they thinking in the moments they were inaugurated? What challenges were they facing? What did Virginia need from them? And it's remarkable how today's challenges look a lot like those we have faced before. In Virginia, we mark 2 anniversaries this year. We commemorate the 250 years since our independence and the 250th anniversary of the inauguration of Virginia's first post-colonial governor, Patrick Henry. Now, Governor Henry was often lauded as a great orator. His words gave shape to American independence. When he rose at St. John's Church in Richmond and cried, "Give me liberty or give me death," his words spurred action, and a revolution would follow. And in reading some of Henry's other work to gain some inspiration, I came across the very last speech Patrick Henry ever delivered. It was in 1799 in the town of Charlotte Courthouse, almost right in the middle of our Commonwealth. He was in failing health and he would die a few weeks later. But he felt so strongly about what he had to say that he rose to speak. Here's what struck me. Only one generation removed from the birth of our nation, less than 25 years, Governor Henry was worried. He was worried, and he spoke about division, about hyper-partisan factions tearing our country apart, about the loudest voices in the room winning out over the most thoughtful minds. And his call to action was to not let it pull our nation, at that time a nascent nation, apart. If it sounds familiar, it did to me because I went on to read more from other former governors. I was listening for echoes across the centuries, and I came across the inaugural address of Governor Linwood Holton. And both of these governors I referenced in my inaugural speech because I was struck by the times in which they lived and the message that they delivered. Governor Holton was one of Virginia's most consequential governors. He was the first Republican governor elected in Virginia since Reconstruction, and he made it his mission to move the Commonwealth past the era of massive resistance. He's one of Virginia's unsung heroes, and he was inaugurated in 1970, a time of enormous political upheaval. The country was divided over Vietnam, over civil rights, over the very direction of our nation. And Virginia, too, was at a crossroads. And Governor Holton addressed a crowd gathered at the Capitol and said that partisan gamesmanship needed to end and that it was time to start rowing the boat in the same direction for change and for progress. And that was a revolutionary thing to say in Virginia in 1970. And it doesn't take much to draw a line from Henry to Holton to right now. When you draw that line, you can see that Virginia has faced bitterly divided times before. And in fact, I had the occasion to spend a bit of time with Mr. Burns yesterday, and we discussed this very point, that we as a nation have faced harder moments. We have faced greater divisions. We've faced greater hardships, and we have always found a way forward. It isn't always easy or quick, but we have made our way. We find that way. And that requires a few things. It requires political leadership, yes, but it also takes something stronger than that. It takes people. It takes civic leadership. It takes engaged, informed citizens choosing service to one another over self-interest. Everyday Americans choosing community over chaos and division. People, neighbors, community leaders, choosing the pursuit of our common good. We all have a role to play in shaping our communities and our collective future. Civic leadership takes many forms, and that's exactly what William and Mary's Year of Civic Leadership recognizes and is about. It rests on a simple but powerful conviction that knowledge carries responsibility and that wisdom must be placed in service to the common good, that civic leaders listen across differences, reason with care, and act with integrity. That's a roadmap for how we get through times like these. And there is no better place to launch an effort like this than here. American democracy was born here, and we're working to perfect it still today. In Virginia, in Williamsburg, on this very campus. This is where George Wythe taught law and mentored Thomas Jefferson and John Marshall. This is where James Madison studied before he went on to build the framework of our Constitution. It was here that the first law school was founded in America, in a budding nation founded on ideas and principles, not familial lineage or territorial borders or conquests or claims, but a nation born of ideas and built on the rule of law. And our first law school was here. For more than 3 centuries, this university has sent its graduates into the world to think, to act, to serve. It is the alma mater of the nation. It is the alma mater of our nation. That legacy is something to celebrate. And yet, when we're being honest, our history is not all celebration. Virginia's story includes chapters that we are still reckoning with: colonialism, slavery, segregation, the ongoing struggle for civil rights, women's equality. This includes, by the way, the experience of women at this university. William and Mary rightly celebrates being among the first of Virginia's schools to admit women way back in 1918. But of course, it was only white women at that time who were admitted. And while we celebrate the progress of being so early as a place, the history behind it reveals something worth seeing. Back in 1918, the First World War had caused a reduction in male students at the university. And the university was facing challenging financial circumstances. And the push and the decision ultimately to admit women, it wasn't wholly based in that pursuit of progress. But in the face of great opposition, progress was made. And yet it took decades before Black students were allowed to study in residence here. I revisit this history not to dampen the pride at being among the first to see progress, but to put it in perspective. Because the people who came before us, they faced hardships, challenges, and in this case, newspaper articles claiming that the decision to admit women had come, quote, at the price of the womanhood Virginia had cherished as a sacred thing. I wonder what the writer of that article would think about a woman president at the university. Or a woman governor. If we take anything away from Ken Burns and his work, it's that understanding our past, people, and events requires that we see it all. We honor our history by absorbing it and learning from it, and by committing ourselves to build upon progress and do better than those who came before us. And think about this. Just this morning, I signed my first piece of legislation as governor. It was the ballot language for a proposed constitutional amendment that will go before the people of Virginia this November. When passed, this constitutional amendment will guarantee marriage equality in our Commonwealth. But it won't just enshrine the rights of same-sex couples to marry, it will remove the ban on same-sex marriage that was put in our Constitution in 2006. But think about that for a moment. This constitutional amendment, it will pass in November. I will work hard to make sure that it does. I know it will. But think about that for a moment. In 2006, our Commonwealth went so far as to amend our Constitution to ban same-sex marriage. And 20 years later, we will move forward to remove that ban and guarantee marriage equality. There will be people who voted for the 2006 amendment who this year will vote for the 2026 amendment. And certainly, for those who may not, their children and their grandchildren may. That's stunning. That is progress, and it is the result of an engaged citizenry asserting over and over that the rights of our neighbors matter. And so sometimes progress can come quickly, and sometimes it takes a long time, but it requires that civic engagement and leadership. Our founders were imperfect. Those who came before us were imperfect, and we are imperfect. But our founders, they did get one thing right. They chose to call Virginia a Commonwealth. It was a conscious decision in response to the tyranny we had faced at the hands of the British monarchy. They chose it to signify that our government would be based on the power of the people united for a common good, not for a king, not for a political party, not for any other allegiance, but for the common good together. That's what being a Commonwealth means. And that, at its heart, to make that Commonwealth successful, that requires all of us. That requires civic leadership. We have faced divisions, we have faced lawless leaders, we have faced hardships before, and we will face them again. The question is whether we are setting an example of hope, determination, and civic engagement for the next generation as they prepare for the challenges that will confront them. And for those of us who may be worried about that preparation, I will say being here at William & Mary demonstrates that we need not worry, William and Mary is doing the work of preparing the next generation to be civic leaders. For 3 centuries, William and Mary has set a standard for forming engaged citizens. The liberal arts thrive here, teaching people to think critically, to listen across differences, and to engage in the hard work of self-governance. William and Mary has been doing this since 1693. And even though Virginia has faced uncertainty and divisions before, in my lifetime, this work has never been more important. So to the students here today, you are inheriting a country, a Commonwealth, founded in extraordinary ideals, and we are still striving to live up to them. And that process creates challenges and hurdles on that path towards progress. And I look at all of you, and I feel incredibly hopeful. You are the products of an institution that has been preparing leaders for more than 3 centuries. You will leave this place ready to do your part to make our country and our Commonwealth even better. That's the tradition that you are inheriting, a tradition of Virginians who chose to lead, who believed the future could be better than the past, and who did the work to make it so. That tradition passes on to you. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to join your community today with this extraordinary honor. So thank you again to Chancellor Gates, to President Rowe, to Rector Poston and the Board of Visitors members for this honor. And to the William and Mary family, thank you for your commitment to civic leadership and for 3 centuries of service to Virginia and the country. Go Tribe.